Awesome. So here's our agenda tonight. We want to get into a little bit of the timeline of success. We hope that we are able to provide some tools for you all to get to work this next couple of weeks. So what can you do now? What are some of those things that you could prepare prior to the recruitment period? A little bit of those tips of the recruitment period. Then after recruitment, we'll be providing a couple resources for you all to take a look at, take advantage of, and we will have some time for quick Q&A. If you have any chapter specific questions that we are able to answer, we will have some time. But at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat function. We will be reviewing those as we go along, or we could save those for the end of the webinar. Awesome. Like I said, we want to talk about 3 different time periods of where you will have the most work. And I think anything that you do these next, 2-3 months will put you at a better spot than at the beginning of the term, when everyone is getting back to campus and you have a lot going on. So we want to talk a little bit of what are some of those things that you could do now that will be very beneficial of getting Delta Sigma Pi out there online and on campus. Secondly, preparing for the recruitment period. So what are those things that are happening during the set recruitment time? And then lastly, ongoing recruitment efforts. We always say year-round recruitment is very beneficial, not just for yourselves, but the future of your chapter. All right, so let's establish those connections over break. Let's reaffirm those connections that we already have. So like I said, the work that you do now, whether you are the senior vice president, you oversee the recruitment committee, or you're a part of the committee, or looking for some opportunities for some of the brothers to take advantage of this summer, an easy one is updating your website. So how many of you all have a chapter website? All right, good. Has it been updated within the last year? Some of you might say yes. Some of you might be like, oh no, we should probably update that. That could be a perfect task to do these next couple months, updating it within what are those events that you held? What are, chapter officers? I always see contact this person. Are those contact information up to date? If not, good time to do so. In regards to your website, again, if you're a student looking for an opportunity to get involved, where are you going to look at? A good majority of our institutions do have a web page or a specific list of all chapter organizations. Maybe they're able to click on it, find contact information, find a social media handle, find your website. So once they click on it, they're able to find a little bit more information about you. So after this webinar tonight, go ahead, look at your institution and see their website and see what is the information that is out there. If anything is incorrect, or maybe you're like, okay, we should probably update that because that person graduated X amount of years ago. Connect with student activities, connect with your chapter advisor. If you don't know how to update that, ask. All right, going into my second bullet point, social media. I think with social media being very prominent, everybody's on social media. So this could be a great opportunity to showcase what you're doing as a chapter. So again, another great opportunity to show what you've done this year, what brothers are up to. If brothers have an awesome internship, get that information. If brothers are studying abroad during the summer, good opportunity to post a little bit and to inform any potential person that is out there looking for something about the organization. Good opportunity to showcase that. Now, with both your website and your social media, we do have it listed under your chapter profile on our chapter locator. Again, if you're like, what is this? What is she talking about? Go to dsp.org/chapter locator, look your chapter up and see if your chapter information is up to date. Again, if your website is incorrect, it could be updated via the update website / social media form on the hub. All right, so as you are making these posts and you're trying to come up with ideas of how to brand yourself, create these different posts, whether it's stories on Instagram, posts, tweets, you name it, any type of social media that you utilize. And you're like, oh my gosh, we have all these ideas, but I don't want to be the only person working on these. There's many platforms out there that can make your preset posts and just update them on whatever date that you want them to. This could be another opportunity to allow different brothers to take over the Instagram and share a little bit about themselves and what they're doing. So this will not only help you get your name out there with the students that are following your page, but this could also continue the chapter development, right? Come back and you're like, okay, well, I haven't seen you all summer. Where are you at? This is what we have been up to. All right. Another great opportunity that we have on here, making those connections, either through the student activities office, fraternity sorority live, asking your faculty advisor, or connecting with additional centers such as new student initiatives or the student activities office, participating in new student orientation, becoming somebody that hands out flyers, and maybe you're wearing your letters during that same exact day and somebody asks you, oh, what are those letters? What are you involved with? Great opportunities to make those connections when you're just participating in general events like that. Other things that we say is following the hashtag class of 2025, class of 2026, or your specific institution probably has general hashtags that students are posting or that you could follow and just connect with those students. Your college of business, school of business is most likely making posts, whether it's, if you haven't signed up for classes, I know it's a little bit late, but if you haven't signed up for classes, please remember to do so, or here are some opportunities to take advantage of. Your faculty advisor, your career services, school of business, make these connections now because they are on campus in regards to, hey, we're looking to host this professional event during our recruitment. Would this be something that we can collaborate with and work together to make this happen? Or connecting with your faculty advisor. These are our plans, these are our goals. What are some of those resources that we can take advantage of? Or maybe they're able to provide a little bit more assistance in giving you a list of 5 recommendations, 5 referrals for you to connect with over the summer. All right, I did say collaborate with other organizations. Again, you could follow other organizations on social media. Like I said in my previous, a little bit prior to this, go on the website and look at the listing. If you're able to host a recruitment event with another organization, that will bring a little bit more of a pool of students for you to then, again, get the name of Delta Sigma Pi out there. Maybe you're able to collaborate with funds, collaborate with ideas, or collaborate just with the people there, whether it's a community service event, professional activities events, a social event, barbecue. That could be a great opportunity to, connect with more people, have students be aware of the opportunities that they have available, and again, grow the presence of Delta Sigma Pi and good experiences. All right, so a couple plans for the recruitment period that we have for you all. So the recruitment workshop, if your chapter has a recruitment workshop, great. If this is something that you're interested in, you're like, I don't really know what I need to bring for this workshop, this could be a good opportunity to kind of start discussing, all right, we need to discuss expectations for the members. We need to have the questions that any recruit might have. Everyone in your chapter must be able to answer those questions, right? Maybe you discuss, hey, how to give a classroom presentation, how to, table. Those are some of those things that can be discussed during the recruitment workshop. Signups for tabling, signups for specific tasks can also be discussed during the recruitment workshop. After that, have your agendas planned and ready for everything, from who will be greeting everyone that comes into the room, who will be following up with set person. If you're working with other officers on your executive committee, have that within your agenda so you have everything written out prior to those official 2 weeks of recruitment. Other things that you could do now is have a business card prepared. We always say, make it as simple as can be. We do have an example on the slide that it just has Delta Sigma Pi, it has a website, it has a social media. This can be utilized for years. It doesn't have a set date. It doesn't have a set contact information. This can be provided at any time. And I always think it's kind of cool if somebody pulls out a business card and says, hey, you should check us out, come to our event. It is listed on our website or it is listed on our social media. Prior to recruitment, if you do get recruitment shirts, be sure those are ordered and received prior to recruitment. You're not waiting for that. Remember, they do need to be made by a licensed vendor. If you have any questions on that, that can be found on our website. A couple last minute or things that you could do prior to recruitment is getting any event space reserved, rooms reserved, anything that needs approval from your campus. This is a time to ask the questions, to look at the expectations, to look at anything that might take a little bit longer and ask those questions. If you already know the answers, that's even better. On a couple of campuses that we have been to, we've seen display cases, we've seen bulletin boards. Again, this is one of those things that during the term, it's a little bit harder to update or to have that time. If there's anybody on campus that you can assign this to, this would be a great time that 2-3 brothers can take an afternoon, maybe after participating in an orientation, you go and update that by adding pictures, by adding a quick description. What do you want people to see when they pass by? Maybe you create a little sheet for your business cards to be added on, or a QR code that people are then able to take a picture of and find your website. And then lastly, communicating all the important dates with brothers so everyone is aware of where they need to be, when they need to be there, and so they're able to get excited and start recruiting now and getting, again, Delta Sigma Pi's name out there.
All right, so now we're going to talk about prepping for the recruitment period. So first, marketing your chapter. A couple things that come to mind when you think of marketing your chapter is how you're presenting yourself, just literally just what Jasmine was talking about. So a couple ways we can do this is by tabling on campus and handing out merch. To your right, you can see a diagram of a good tabling setup versus one that may need a little bit of improvement. Something to note with that is the people are sitting behind the table, they're disengaged, and because of that, they're losing the interest of people passing by. This is going to be the same thing when you are tabling at an org fair or a summer event for your campus. You want to make sure that you're loud and proud about, Delta Sigma Pi and your chapter, and that you are seeking other people out and not expecting them to come to you. That's one of the biggest tips that we could offer you when it comes to tabling is, really just put on that extroverted energy and go seek out some of those potential recruits. With that being said, handing out merch is also going to tie into our merchandising policy. Feel free to ask us about it at the end of this presentation if you'd like more information on it. We'd be happy to provide that to you. But make sure you're planning that stuff in advance. I know later on this presentation, we'll be looking at different calendars of how you can plan for this. But ordering that stuff and planning for what exactly you'd like to have ahead of time is only going to be more helpful to you all. So you're not cramming all these ideas in last minute. With that being said, another way to market your chapter is speaking in classes. Again, something as simple as reaching out to some of your faculty initiates, or maybe some faculty within the College of Business that you all have strong rapport with. Simply saying, hey, I'm so-and-so from this chapter. I'd love to speak for a few minutes at the beginning of your class and let students know about this and this and this. And really just want it, not just say, hey, can I come into class? But really sell the idea of, hey, this is going to be a benefit to your students. Faculty members are going to be really susceptible to wanting to have you come in and provide this opportunity to students, especially since DSP does promote a lot of business development and professional growth. Again, something you want to do really early on in the year, because again, that syllabus week goes by really quick, and that's going to be your optimal time to get the attention of students who are there to learn about the class, and they're most likely going to be in class. So again, something to keep in mind there. Another option, fraternity and sorority life, student activities. Again, this is where what Jasmine was saying earlier is going to come into play. Making those relationships early is going to be crucial, because from there, you're able to ask for different ideas on, hey, what event can we be a part of? Or can you send out an email on our behalf explaining who we are? All different things that can help your chapter succeed with a recruitment plan before you even start. A couple other things you can be doing, career services, your school business. So those people can be sending out emails as well. And that's going to be targeted directly to who you're looking to market, business students. So again, building relationships with those offices is only going to be beneficial to you. A couple other things here, plan to have fundraisers or big scale events right before recruitment. Such as your chapter events like Meet the Bros, a community service event, maybe even a professional event. All these types of things do count towards your CMP like they normally would, but they're also a great way of showing you and showing people that are interested in you what exactly your chapter does. You can put everything on paper and say, hey, this is what Delta Sigma Pi is, but when you have these events, you're also showing them what you're doing. So again, another great option for you to think about and start planning for during recruitment. And then lastly, social media posting. I think we're all going to be talking about this throughout the evening, making sure that you're branding yourself the way you want to be seen. Again, the frequency and content that you're posting is only going to help attract people to your chapter and what's going to set you aside from the other hundreds of organizations in your school. Okay, so make sure you're being strategic and you're continuing to follow up. One post isn't going to necessarily do the trick. All right, so then there's some questions to ask yourself while recruiting. Again, some of the things you want to think about, kind of reverting to the 7 C's of marketing, if you will. So the first one's going to be audience. Where can we find our target audience? Are we reaching out to everyone who fits the profile of an ideal member? And what is catching the attentions of students currently? I think all of us in this room, this virtual room, know better than anyone how things can quickly change in the world of media and generational changes, right? So what are students interested in? I can definitely tell you that 10 years ago, they weren't interested in TikTok and scrolling through and doing that kind of stuff, right? So the world is ever evolving and new platforms are starting by the day. So make sure you're keeping up with those trends and making it beneficial to you to utilize as a chapter, because that's where you're going to find those students. Maybe if your campus is doing a campus-wide campaign, or your College of Business is doing some postings, kind of what Jasmine was saying earlier, you know, hey, sign up for classes or do this, you can hop on that bandwagon and probably get the same audience that they're getting as well. Again, another thing to think about, your product and your service. One of the most important things as a chapter when trying to brand yourself and make an image for yourself. Some questions to ask. Do we have set expectations as a chapter? Are we being upfront with our expectations of all members, not just potential members, but all of our members? And are we telling potential members what is required for the pledge program and what are the benefits of Delta Sigma Pi? I know that's a lot of things to think about. So just to kind of condense that a little, you want to make sure that what you're saying is what you're doing. You know, we tell you to update your bylaws, your policies every year, right? But it doesn't just stop there. If maybe you have a really outdated attendance policy or things maybe aren't the same as they were before COVID, which you're probably experiencing right now, it's okay to change those things and be concise and cohesive as a chapter so that when you're recruiting people, you're recruiting exactly what you're doing as a chapter. So again, that helps with your retention, that helps with your motivation. So things to keep in mind: who do you want to be? And now how do we get there? Another thing to think about is your message. What is our story? What do we value as an organization? And how are we spreading this message? A couple of the answers to this question can be found on our website at dsp.org. We have a nice about page that tells you everything you need to know about our history, what we stand for, the different cool initiatives that we're a part of currently. But it doesn't just start with the national fraternity. It's also going to start with you as a chapter, because potential members are not going to know what the national fraternity is. They're going to see you and your table at an organization event, and you have to sell it. So what is it that your chapter is doing that sets yourself apart from everybody else in the room? And that's what you're going to want to think about. Something I also like to mention in this part is stories. Every single person in this room joined this organization for a reason. Whether it was to make friends, maybe at first put it on a resume, maybe you just were looking to get involved and you didn't know what else to do, and you saw Delta Sigma Pi and you just tried. And then from there, it evolved into something greater, and you're sitting in this webinar today trying to learn how to do that for others. So it's a great testament to knowing that, hey, we all have a story, we all have a reason why we joined. And once we can identify that, we're going to be able to recruit people the same way and find that why factor for them. Couple more for you. Experience. What experience does our chapter provide people? And how are your brothers acting? And what are they saying about DSP? Perception is everything. If you all are standing up straight and you're presenting yourself well, maybe you cleaned up nice for the recruitment event, and you have a nice firm handshake and you're really professional, that is going to say a lot more nonverbals to people than the opposite of maybe you're sitting behind that table, you're on your phone, you're disengaged. That's really going to tell how well you're going to recruit throughout your recruitment. So again, how are you all acting and conducting yourself? And are you conducting yourself in a way that you want to be seen? If the answer is yes, then more than likely, you're going to have a much better time recruiting and getting that visibility that you're trying to get. And again, answering the question of what experience does your chapter provide? A great sense of community, a great sense of brotherhood, fill in the blank, whatever it ends up being, make sure that you're capitalizing on that and you're heightening all of those amazing experiences into your promotional materials. Again, another thing, initiative. How are we following up with potential pledges and attendees? And are we intentional with our events and media so that they work in our favor? A couple things to think about here is, let's say we have a Meet the Brothers event and we all gather and it's the first recruitment event of the term and you get a really great turnout. And let's say it's 40 people. Well, if you just get maybe their names and then do nothing else, you're not retaining those members, you're not engaging with them. And they're probably going to be thinking in their head, okay, I went to this and now I'm going to continue on with my life. There's nothing else there. So a couple things to think about when you're getting those people attending your events is making sure you're recording things properly. Get a good primary contact information, an email, a phone number, whatever they feel comfortable with, as well as a name and a major. That can really help you all identify and find key talking points with this individual so that, again, you're making an experience for them and you're making them feel already welcomed into the chapter since they're already showing interest. Again, some things with intentionality is making sure you're having events that are going to make sense to people and be enticing for people to want to go to. So again, a great thing you could do is maybe have a professor come and talk, a well-liked professor in your college of business that would maybe want people to come and go do those things. Or maybe even doing like a sweepstakes on your social media, like, hey, come attend Meet the Bros and have the chance to win XYZ or do this or do that. Have those follow-up action items that make people want to take initiative and make sure you're following suit with that. Another piece of this is technology. So do you have a good mix of in-person and online visibility? And how are we branding, ourselves? what does our digital footprint look like? I think more than anyone, we know what it's like to be working in the digital realm over the last 2 years. So we can see how unpredictable our world's turned upside down and how much we rely on social media and digital interactions. So again, having that good, healthy mix of people excited to be back on campus and ways that you can include the campus environment into your recruitment, but also making sure that you're meeting up with your expectations of what you're putting out there on social media, how frequent, what quality is it, and again, who are we trying to engage? Again, some of the things that I know Jasmine had said, using your university's hashtags, making sure that you're posting regularly, and maybe even doing some of those Instagram takeovers. Your visibility, both virtually and in person, is going to be crucial to having a successful recruitment. And lastly, measurement. How are we keeping track of the connections we make and the attendees that we have? This kind of went back to that experience, a couple other the initiatives that I just talked about, but having an organized system in order to keep track of these connections is going to be crucial, not only for this recruitment, but for all the recruitments to come. A great example of that is, let's say we have a freshman who is just excited and they're going to every single table at the student org fair because they are just so eager to get involved. And they are interested in Delta Sigma Pi, and for one reason or another, it doesn't work out. And in the fall, they don't decide to pledge. That doesn't mean they're a lost cause. That just means, hey, we're not getting them for the fall, but this is a great contact to reach out to in the spring saying, hey, have you changed your mind? Could you maybe attend one of these events? And let's see if we can, re-spark some initiative and some excitement within this organization. So again, keeping track of some of those people that maybe it just wasn't their time to pledge, but that doesn't mean it can't be. And also just keeping track of the people in general that attend, faculty, different staff members, because another part of recruitment is faculty initiates and making sure that we have a good visibility in the College of Business, and having the mindset that it's not just for the week or 2 weeks that we do tables and pass out flyers, but it's going to be a recurring thing, and any conversation can really lead to a conversation about DSP.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about what you can do now and a little prepping for the recruitment period. So now after the recruitment period happens, right, what is the next steps that your chapter can take? So as you're well aware, recruitment is a year-long activity, right? It never ends. Like, just because the recruitment period's over, just because now you're in the pledge process, doesn't mean you can't stop recruiting. I call this little period something called passive recruiting, right? You're not like actively having events and planning and like posting those flyers for recruiting, things like that. But that doesn't mean you aren't recruiting. It's just not as prominent in other people's minds. So for example, as all officers, you should want to collaborate on all your events to make sure that they're bigger and better, right? Such as fundraisers, professional events, community service events. I'm assuming us as DSP chapters, we're all hosting these events, making them public. Now it's an unofficial recruiting event, right? If it's not just for brothers, it's open to the business school, it's open to the entire campus. You are building the presence of DSP on your campus. You are now exposing DSP to individuals who might not know DSP before. You are passively recruiting. Right, so it's an entire chapter effort. It's throughout the entire year. It's not just the 1 or 2 weeks of recruitment that most chapters do. Right, so really look at the events you do. Usually, sometimes some chapters do annual events and things like that. If you make a big event and just don't make it just for brothers and make it for the entire campus, that can help DSP a lot in the long run in terms of recruitment. And always be on the lookout for a candidate who could be a great Delta Sig. If you have a buddy in your class who's not Delta Sig, hey, you're really good, we think you'll be really good Delta Sig, come join us next term, right? Word of mouth marketing is super powerful and effective. When you ask a lot of brothers how they heard about DSP, yes, social media, yes, email blasts, but a lot of people were like, this person dragged me along, right? That's really powerful. So make sure when you're on the class, do lookouts, or when we mentioned before, building those connections to the faculty in the business school, ask them for recommendations for people in your class, right? Hey, like, we are looking for Delta Sigs who are great leaders, who are great business students, who could be a great contributor to our chapter. Do you have anyone to recommend? they probably have a list of students that they love and they're like, hey, they'll probably be a great fit for DSP. Now you have a new list to contact throughout the entire year, and just talk to them as an individual. Don't talk to them as a DSP officer. Don't talk to them as a Delta SIG, right? How are you doing? How are you liking the class so far? That could lead me to get a recruit more than, hey, I'm part of DSP, let me talk to you, right? Within the first 30 seconds, you make an impression. So please be wary of those 30 seconds, because if you're trying to sell me something, I am walking the other way as a complete stranger. So please be wary of your approach. Always be on the lookout for a good candidate, well, Delta SIG, and they can be in classes, they could be walking around, they could be at work. A lot of people have campus jobs at times. Just talk about DSP. Hey, how's your day? I'm going to a DSP event. Now they heard about DSP, now they're a little bit curious. Another thing you can do is make sure you plan for the next recruitment. Obviously, everything we talked about is the preparations, right? The planning process of what you can do now. Make sure when you're ending the recruitment period, you're getting feedback from brothers who've been in the organization for multiple years, from brothers who are just recently initiated, right? So like the pledges who just got initiated. Make sure you're getting feedback to see what works so we can keep it and what doesn't work, right? It's okay to have one out of your 5 events be bad. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of events. We don't expect perfection from every single event. Now, if you have 4 out of 5 events that are bad, you probably wouldn't think that because you're the one who probably planned it. But with getting the feedback, you'll say, okay, now we need to revamp all our events or the layout or less events, right? I visit a lot of chapters who have 10 different recruiting events, because the more recruitment events, the better. You're experiencing burnout, and then sometimes they don't have value to them. So then when you're getting that feedback, brothers could be like, I am tired, right? So maybe 3 or 5 powerful events is more effective than 10 overlapping events in 2 weeks, right? So you wouldn't know that unless you survey the chapter, unless you really get that feedback, because you want to be always growing and improving, especially for recruitment, because that's DSP image on campus, right? That's how strangers who don't know who you are viewing you. So you want to make sure you are wary of that presentation. So everything we covered today is like best practices and like sometimes very vague instructions of what to do, right? We have a lot of resources for you. So if you didn't get the answers you have today, don't worry. I'm going to show you exactly where to find these resources. If you go to dsp.org, we have our search bar on top. Just type in SVP or Senior Vice President, and we have something called the Collegiate Chapter Senior Vice President webpage, which is a screenshot on the right-hand side. And you would click on recruitment resources. These have been recently updated as well from all the consultants, and we've traveled to many different chapters, got a lot of different chapter practices, and just kind of accumulated what really worked for chapters across the country. So we have recruitment resources such as recruitment guides or recruitment ideas, best practices, talking points during recruitment, marketing communication templates. So you heard us say, make sure you're following up with people, make sure you send them emails. What do I type in these emails? We have a template for you. Just copy and paste it, right? We're trying to give you the layout for recruitment, even if you know nothing about recruitment. So they're there for you as long as you look for them. So I'll have a few examples in the next slide. So for example, like I said, an event invitation email. Some chapters don't know what the event invitation might look like for recruiting. Copy and paste it, right? This is found on our website. Similar to that, we talk about make sure you're following up for an individual. You might want to know, when should I follow up? How long in advance, right? We have a breakdown for you called the recruit follow-up timeline, right? Send thank you emails for when they come, or if a recruit shows interest, what you should do and what the time period is, right? This is all broken down for you. And if you want further broken down resources, we have something called the recruitment calendar, right? So this is a cut and paste template from, it's very vague in general, so you could manipulate it to fit your chapter, but this is what a typical recruiting period will look like for a lot of chapters, right? So it's 2 months in advance, postings on social media, how much you post, right? Or recruitment events, is it a 2-week or 1 week? Tabling, how far in advance should you be tabling? So on and so forth. So that recruitment calendar that's on the right-hand side of your screen right now is 2 months of just what you should do during the recruitment period. 1 month of preparation with social media postings and room reservations and planning the events, and 1 month of actually conducting the events and actively recruiting and hosting the pledge ceremony. So if you know nothing about recruitment, have no experience, this is a perfect resource for you because it lists out the dates exactly, how far in advance you should be planning things, when you should be hosting things. Again, it's a very general one that we accumulated from all the chapters that we visited. So manipulate it the way you want it to. Take into account everything we talked about today, your digital footprint marketing. We said social media so many times over and over and over again, right? We do that because it's important. So when we talk about social media, I post social media on a Monday and then post on social media on a Friday. Some people are like, 2 posts in 1 week might sound excessive. Some people don't know that the more you post on social media, like Instagram, the more likely you'll be suggested to another person's Instagram in the area. So the more active you are, the more likely you'll be finding a new individual, because Instagram will recommend you to another individual to keep up to date for your post, right? You want to make sure you're posting everything. Stories. I saw chapters do lives before. So when they're tabling just on campus, they do a live. This is what we're doing at the table. They're having a good time. Come find me. And to make sure your lives isn't boring, some chapters plant people into the chat to ask random questions, right? No one knows that they're Delta 6. Right? Just like, what's your favorite color? What is your favorite animal? Right? Just random questions. Or what is DSP? So now your live is popping. Now people are going to view your live, right? Have people watch your live who are not even watching your live, right? If they're setting whatever, just put the live, put the camera on, turn the sound down, and now you have 1 viewer. Make sure you never have 0 viewers on your live, because then people are not going to go on your live. They think it's boring. So those are just random tactics. And again, a breakdown of a recruitment calendar. This is also an example of a flyer that we've seen from a chapter. So if you want to follow that design, you definitely can. Again, we covered a lot of material, and sometimes it might not be specific for your chapter, right? And we totally get that. If you want to schedule time with us for a one-on-one with anyone in the consultant team, here's the QR code, right? Plan a meeting with us. Like, we'll sit down with you for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever you want to meet, and we could walk you through the recruitment process, help you plan recruitment. We are here as a resource for you. Again, we have a lot of resources on our website, but sometimes talking it out with the individual, especially as us with consultants, and we've seen so many recruitment periods, so many different chapters, we could kind of be like, okay, you want to do this, here are some ideas. And then we could really do that brainstorming process. And then Jasmine put it in the chat as well. So if you don't want to use the QR code, there's a link in the chat and you want to schedule a meeting with us, go for it. We are here for you. If you don't want to schedule a meeting with us, that's totally fine too. But we do want to open up to a Q&A portion of our presentation as it all wraps up. So any questions you have for us today, we are here to answer.
So you talked a little bit about burnout as like you have a longer recruitment period. Kind of along that same line, but even with like a shorter recruitment period, how do you kind of suggest for smaller chapters to combat that when you have like your 4 or 5 events, but you've only got your small chapter that's kind of running those?
Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because I can't unmute and share my screen at the same time. It's really frustrating, but I can answer that. So especially for a smaller chapter, if you're still planning hosting, say 4 to 5 recruitment events, one tactic is maybe put those events at over 2 weeks, right? So it's not back-to-back all in 1 week. If you are doing a back-to-back all in 1 week, make sure that you are fully transparent and communicative with the chapter. They have plenty of notice. They can be excused if needed, like for class and things like that. Obviously, make sure that is translated over, but also don't have additional events following up that. Have a cool down period. Right? If they are expecting to have 5 events in 1 week, don't expect them to go to a professional event the following week. Give them time off. We are all exhausted. Another tactic too is please be strategic when you are planning that recruitment period. So during syllabus week, right, when there's nothing to deal with, right? But right when quizzes and tests start, you're more likely to see brother drop off because they're studying their students first. So please be strategic when in the term you'll be doing that recruitment as well, but also make sure the events have value for them. So if you're having a recruitment workshop where it's resume building and you do resume building every single term, as a brother who's been in it for a little while, I don't want to go to that event. I'm more likely to leave, right? But if you do a professional event that's really creative or out of the box, I'm more likely to do it because I'm more see value in it, right? It's gonna be exciting. One chapter did a raffle ticket, like incentive programs, like each event you went to, you get a raffle ticket. And then at the end of the recruitment week, you pulled a raffle and then that person got a prize, right? Incentivize them to go, make sure that they're still seeing value for going. And another thing for burnout too is knock off your CMP credit during recruitment period, because that means you have less events throughout the term. Sarah, Jasmine, do you want to add on? I covered a couple of things, but.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Erin. Erin and I both come from smaller-ish chapters. So this definitely happens. And something I do want to add is just making it known that just because you have 4 to 5 people, however many it is, that are making these events, that's okay. You are not a failure. And, you know, if you cannot have 10, 15 events, you're not a failure. Like, definitely spread yourself out and have those quality events and really put time in it. I think the best advice, like, and recommendations I would give you is evenly distribute the work as best as possible. That's going to build up everyone's motivation. If I know Erin and I know Jasmine and I know everyone's doing the same stuff and we all are pulling even weight, I think that's going to motivate all of us to continue forward. That's the first thing. And then another thing is kind of using your small number to your advantage. And what I mean by that is really seeking those external resources. Yes, you may be small in numbers, but you can still build relationships. You can still ask for help. It's not just the 5 of you against the world. You have student activities, you have your dean, you have faculty, you have all these people that are going to want to see you succeed. They're in their professions for a reason. And it's okay to go to those people saying, hey, we're a little, you know, we got only a few people here. We're really trying. This is our idea. Can we pitch it to you? Can you help us in some way? Maybe they can't give you all of what you're asking, but just to simply ask is better than not at all. That is something I've seen smaller chapters during my visits even utilize, is having those faculties help with those reach outs, maybe recommending 1 or 2 people from each of their classes. Even if you're a chapter of 10 and you reach out to 10 faculty and each of you are assigned 1 and you ask for 2 recommendations, that's 20 people that you all didn't have to do any work for, that you can just personally reach out to, use those communication templates and make a connection with. And that's something that, again, you're kind of taking that load off of yourselves and putting it in the hands of other people. And again, timing is going to be crucial with that. If you're coming at people the week before school starts, they're thinking about their syllabuses. They're thinking about, oh my goodness, what else am I still forgetting for this class? And, you know, it's a hectic time for people. So making sure you're doing those reach outs when everyone's kind of chilling for the summer, so it's in their inbox, that's when you're going to want to ask them and make those connections.